I don't believe that half the time what we're being fed. Like the drone thing right now, I don't believe anything the government's saying right now.
Did you see what Trump said? He said on January 21st, I'll tell y'all what I find out.
When they tell you guys about,
I have a lot of respect for that.
When they
Wait. Do you think
What
they'll
if-
release the JFK stuff?
I hope, but what if on January 21st, Trump just comes out and he goes, so apparently China's got gravitic drones that are flying through the air and launching from the Atlantic, and then he pulls up the episode of Sean Ryan, and you're like, oh man, wow.
I watched it.
I watched the Sean Ryan show?
I watched the Sean Ryan show. I'm very interested in the topic. I watched the whole thing front to end, start to finish. It's interesting. It's fascinating. And I have a committee on technology under the Oversight Committee. I'm very interested in all of this.
Is there classified information you can't talk to us about in terms of these UAPs,
Yes.
UFOs? Oh.
check out.
That proves it. It's aliens.
No, I didn't say that. But what I will say, and I can't say what shapes they are, but I was in a skiff or a classified room right before the holiday recess, Christmas recess, and the government has debunked a lot of videos and photos, even some of the stuff that's leaked out, and a lot of it does make a lot of sense. But there are consistently two shapes that are unknown and unidentified. The government, our government, cannot explain. I will not say what shapes those are, as I was told in a classified setting, and it's not public yet, but specifically there are two types of shapes that are consistently unknown, unexplained in our skies.
It could be plasma. They're doing this thing called talking plasma.
Not the shape of plasma.
But plasma can take different shapes. They can change the
So
shape of
what
it now,
Ian's
called
is-
talking plasma. What they do is they triangulate laser beams or beams, and they connect them at one point, and then they can alter the shape, and they can project sound through the stuff too, so they can make it look like a man's face.
This is
Yeah,
real.
check out
Like
military
universities do it.
times.
thing.
Yeah, what they do
Talking
is
plasma.
if you take like four lasers, the point where they intersect will create
A shape.
And they
you're like, so when you point a laser, you see the dot on the wall. When the two lasers intersect, the point where they intersect refracts and you can see it.
Gotcha.
So what they do is they basically make holograms by having 10 lasers all move, on a computer program.
Interesting.
Yeah, so the reason why some people think UFOs are quote unquote talking plasma is that when they say that this object moves seemingly an instant, well, if they're just lasers going back and forth, it would
Gotcha. That's interesting.
If it's
and they would look like Tic Tacs.
if they're just radars coming up on radar, and they're like, "What is that?" Talking plasma. If you see the craft, that's another story, because they probably have lightweight drones that are going underwater and up into space and like.
Yeah, it could be interesting. So, but Arrow, the government is going to start putting out some of the information on which ones are that they have debunked and how they debunked them, because I think that information would give more trust in the process too with the government, because I don't trust them. I don't trust at this point any government agency, because we've been lied to for so long by all of them. But then while they do that, they're also going to release information on what is unexplained.
What's the company?
Arrow, it's a government agency that investigates UAPs. They investigate a lot of other things as well, but they'll be doing this, I am told, starting this year, starting over the next couple of months, start releasing information on videos and photos that they have debunked, and they will explain how they've been debunked. I've been briefed on this. And then some of the ones that are unexplained, they will also release to the public. So I think that's a great first step in some transparency.
Have you ever met any of the Arrow agents, would you call them? Mm-hmm. Do they wear black suits? And
No.
did they ever come up to you with a silver-looking pen?
No.
Do they?
They're not men in black.
No.
No, they're not
Not
men
that you
in
would know,
black.
but do they lie? Like, are they instructed by deeper
My
state?
problem is when I go into a skiff, most of the information we get is already open source. It's already out there already. Very little is classified. And then the other problem is because of the overclassification of information, if you don't know the name of the specific program that's classified, if you don't know the words like the Constellation program, that one a couple weeks ago that came forward by Michael Schellenberger, like that one, if you don't have the specific name, they'll just say it doesn't exist. So it's like if you don't know what the compartmentalized program is, you don't know the name of it, you'll never get information on it, because they'll just tell you it did never happen, it doesn't exist. And then the other part is I do believe that private contractors are involved some way in some of this. And so they skirt around government laws, institutions, the Constitution, statutes, maybe even the executive branch. And they do some of this, whether it's reverse engineering or the technology whatever we're involved in or have knowledge of or are replicating in the private sector to get around our laws too. I do believe that that's a thing.
Do you think that the technology to use gravity propulsion systems exist?
I don't know. I have not been briefed on it, but I did read the memorandum, the manifesto of the Cybertruck bomber.
Yeah.
I did watch Sean Ryan's program, and
Is it true the FBI said that email was sent by this guy?
I have not verified that, but I am very interested in learning more through my chairmanship on the Technology Committee on Oversight. I would like to learn more about what's going on. I also don't want to be suicided. I am very happy. I love my children. I love my family. I love my job. But I am very interested in, because some of the names that were used in that memo they talked about are real people.
Yeah.
They're active duty officers within some of those agencies and departments that are referenced in there. That to me, that's a hard thing for me to get past. But the gravitational propulsion systems, I can't imagine that does exist. So that's why I would like us to look into it in Congress, even if we have to do it in a classified setting.
I suppose the challenge is, I don't see why it wouldn't be possible. I mean, humans can invent and develop things. And then the question is, if the U.S. were to invent a new kind of propulsion, they're not going to tell us if it's a weapon or it's, you know. So I was thinking about this the other day. I was at an airport and I was reading about Amelia Earhart, and I was like, wow, like look how much was accomplished in this short time when they invented these planes. And the fascinating thing is, within a couple decades, we were at war with them. Like, we just built them, and then 2 decades later,
we learned how to fight with them.
right?
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking, like, how is it that the Wright brothers in North Carolina, right? What was the name of the hill? I don't know. They
Kitty Hill? Kitty Hawk?
Kitty Hawk, right? I was actually just there like 2 years ago. These guys figure it out, and then that information as to how to create a heavier than air flying machine becomes ubiquitous around the world, to the point where we're fighting against our enemies who have them.
And what payload they can carry,
Right.
and bombs. And,
So
yeah.
I feel like the U.S. says, look at us. We've discovered gravitic propulsion. The last thing we want is for China or Russia or Iran to figure out how to do this.
Correct.
Because we don't want to go to war against
Yeah,
them.
they got that material, aerogel. You guys familiar with aerogel?
Oh, yeah.
Super lightweight, almost lighter than air. I think it is lighter than air. And
I think they like freeze dry something, and then what's left
yeah,
is this.
it's very heat resistant. Like, you can blow torch it and it's totally fine. And they'll alloy it with like airloy they have, where you can hit it with a hammer, but it's so light. And the atmosphere is dense. Like, stuff can be lighter than this atmosphere, and it'll float. Like, obviously, if a vacuum itself will float. So if you have materials, and then, I mean, you talk about like warp drive and like cavitating space and creating enough horizontal momentum that it reduces vertical momentum to zero or near zero. So
I got a B in physics. Relativity almost killed me.
what about it?
I'm just, whatever that is you just said.
Horizontal momentum, making vertical momentum reduce. Yeah, I think there's an inverse relationship with the two forms of momentum. So Jeremy Riss, the alien scientist, we talk a lot about anti-gravity research, but
it's a national security issue. So if it exists, it is a national security issue. I sit on the House Armed Services Committee also, and I would like to make sure that if we have very advanced technology in our skies, I want to know for a fact that China does not have it, or if it does exist, who else has it? Because this is where the arms race will be.
Because if it's a corporation, then the corporation has it, and if the corporation wants to sell that tech,
correct. So so I do have concerns if it's in the private sector, who else has access to it?
do you? Because how do you navigate the ethics of military secrecy?
Well, there are laws that govern who companies can do business with overseas, like terrorist organizations. You can't,
ITAR stuff.
What's that?
ITAR stuff.
ITAR, correct. You just can't go do a deal with Hezbollah as an American company. It's just not a thing. So that's why classifying terrorist organizations is important. We don't classify the Taliban as terrorists.
But you could do a deal with somebody that does a deal with the Taliban.
Yeah, I mean, the way that kind of stuff works, like for instance, like SpaceX is essentially like they make intercontinental ballistic missiles, even though they don't make warheads. So he has to have a clearance, and he has to follow all kinds of ITAR rules, and he has to
regulations
and stuff, and he has to have the people that actually work there. They have to follow clearance, and there's a whole slew of different products that are like that, whether it be certain types of lasers, infrared stuff, all kinds of different computer programs, certain.
And then what you are selling or
cryptology.
have a contract to sell to another foreign country, there are export rules, export permitting that you have to go through the State Department. There are a lot of regulations on how you would do business with a foreign entity.
Do you ever get concerned that they're going to sell to a neutral entity that will then sell to an enemy?
I'm always concerned.
It's a way more of a realistic concern that the federal government will just give it to
But more about
terrorists.
cyber and hacking too. It's like, who do these companies employ? Who has access to the information? Who's the spy? Who's getting paid off enough that China already has the information? If we have advanced technology or any of our technology, quite frankly, is, how are we ensuring that those systems aren't getting hacked, their enemies don't have the information? And I think that's more of a realistic scenario because China is trying to hack us every single day, all night long, in every way, shape, or form they possibly can.
I think the challenge is if they did bring into the skiff and said aliens are real and they're aliens, you couldn't tell us anyway.
Right. That's not what they
true.
said.
Yeah.
But
But you can't.
yeah. But I can't confirm if they did say that.
Nor
I wouldn't be
deny.
able to say that. But
That proves it.
no, that was definitely not said. But there are two shapes that are very interesting, which was fascinating to me. So I would.
They've shown you the shapes. You just can't describe
Yes,
them or what?
they have shown us the shapes. There's just two certain shapes that they cannot explain.
Can you? I don't want to press too hard on classified stuff. But I'm just curious. Why can't you describe the shape?
Because it was in a skiff, and I don't want to.
There you go.
Violate
Yeah, I figured
any
because-
I have run against people that have leaked classified information.
Yeah, we don't want that.
I just don't. I will not. I won't go there. I want to make sure I follow the rules.
But they were donuts.
I think they were triangles, but three-dimensional,
triangles we know about.
undulating in and out
You know-
because it's plasma.
My favorite thing was when the drone stuff's happening in New Jersey. The New York Post ran a story about the drones, and they had 3 pictures, and one of them was very obviously an American Airlines plane with the American flag tail, and I was like,
dude.
"It's a picture of an airplane, dude."
Yeah.
A lot of people were freaking out.
But were we lied to per that memo? Is it China? Are they off our coast? Is it Russia? Is it Iran? Is it somebody else? These are questions the American people deserve answers to, which is why that memo is fascinating to me and why I believe we should get briefed on it, look at it, investigate it within armed services oversight, wherever that jurisdiction.
You're talking about these this last month, the drones, whatever came
All
of that.
down the eastern seaboard. Nothing has come of it. We
Are
just
the
got,
drones still there? I've heard some crazy stories.
What have you heard?
So we had Ron Coleman on, and he lives in North Jersey, and he said his neighbors saw something the size of an SUV fly over their house.
Oh my gosh. Mhm.
Someone else super chatted us saying that they were driving down the road and some large car-sized drone landed and stopped for a second and then picked up and flew off again.
Really?
Like tons of people have reported. This is the crazy thing. People are reporting car-sized drones of some sort, flying objects that may be manned. And people don't understand exactly how they're flying. Maybe they're rotors or whatever. But then people conflate that and take pictures of airplanes and helicopters, and it confuses everything.
Yeah, and there was confusion because of that. And I saw some of the photos where it was planes and not drones. But I was initially concerned about like radiation. Are they looking for some kind of a lethal device that's out there that they can't find or that somebody lost? Because that does happen, by the way. But then when I read that memo, the manifesto, I said, well, gosh, maybe it's one of our foreign adversaries. And if that's happening, why aren't we shooting them down out of the skies? This is another China balloon scenario. But by the way, the FAA technically controls and mans the skies, and even our military assets aren't really allowed to shoot even a drone over a military base. They're not allowed to shoot it down because it's FAA territory.
We had a drone fly over our studio,
Really?
spying on us, low altitude, in our airspace.
Yeah.
And I was told explicitly,
anything.
You can't do anything about it. And I'm like, well, how do you stop this clearly criminal action? Like, good luck.
Yeah.
So Trump's got this video. There's this video out with Trump. Check it out.
Kind of disappeared very suddenly. Do you have any idea whatever happened to the drones?
What happened to drones?
Well, you had said that you thought the government knew what was happening with these drones over New Jersey. There were some by Bedminster.
I don't know. They're over Bedminster a lot, so I can imagine. I'm going to give you a report on drones about one day into the administration, because I think it's ridiculous that they're not telling you about what's going on with the drones. And it's not only with me. Glenn was telling me today that in Virginia they have drones all over the place, too, and nobody's reporting it. I don't know why they're not. Do you want to say something about that?
Just one quick comment, which is we are home to the largest naval base in the world in Quantico, and we house a lot of the SEAL teams and have a huge national security infrastructure. And now for 2 years running, we have had drone incursion over secure airspace, and we still don't know why. And I think that's absolutely unacceptable. And I think President Trump and the new leadership coming in, I think, will work diligently to understand who's behind this and what we do in order to stop the digital surveillance of all of our secure infrastructure.
Interesting. So I guess we'll
Gotta be military.
find out in a week.
It's got to be military. And the thing is, this is the ethics. Like, you kind of, as the military, as the commander, the one building the weapons program to counter foreign weapons programs, you want to lie to the public so that they believe it, so that the Chinese start to believe it also.
The military doesn't actually do the building.
Yeah, I was being hyperbolic, and not the military commander.
China
it's half
is
true.
constantly spying on us. China knows everything. I think it's very difficult to keep secrets from someone as like
Nefarious,
China.
yeah.
There are contractors, of course, but the U.S. government does have military Air Force bases that do weapons research.
So
But even still, they're bringing in people from the private sector.
Yeah, but it's a mix.
It's a collaboration.
Yeah.
So I guess it's like, what do you tell people? Like, if Trump found out, like, these are counter drones, these are weapons that we're going to use to defend ourselves, and here's how they can be shot down, and here's how they can be disrupted. You kind of don't want people to know that.
I was drafting a bill this fall, and I think we're still doing it, that would allow our military to shoot down drones over military airspace. That's not allowed right now. And so
Yeah.
I was literally drafting a bill to fix that, and then this happened. The drone thing happened.
Weren't you talking about that? How shooting down anything is a felony?
We just mentioned it.
Yeah.
What? They can't. The military cannot shoot.
Correct.
Okay, why?
It's a felony.
FAA
Who's the
controls the airspace.
Some other organization is trumping military authority when it comes to self-defense. That makes no sense.
Airspace. U.S. airspace.
Ian is right. The military should be supreme and have absolute authority.
I see, because we're a citizen
civilian
run
oversight.
country.
I mean,
yeah.
that's why the secretary or the Secretary of Defense is almost always a civilian,
Always, just-
or is a,
Thank you
is
guys
supposed to be a
for
civilian.
pointing me back towards the light.
The president isn't actually in the military. He's the commander in chief, but he's a civilian. The SecDef is a civilian. The guy that runs CIA, civilian. These positions
But-
are staffed
So
by
if
civilians.
one of these
Not
drones
actively,
opens
not
fire, then the military can take it down.
I mean,
No, I don't know. I don't know if the military can operate on U.S. soil that way. I think it would be a law
I'm
enforcement
not sure.
issue.
I'd have to actually check. I'm not.
It's a law. It's. I mean, obviously, I think
Complicated.
if it's opening fire on the military base,
Yeah.
Yes,
I'm
I would
pretty sure.
imagine.
But I assume if drones are flying around shooting people, it's going to be a local law enforcement thing. Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.